This is Carissa from Summerlin Studios, and today we're going to talk about one of the simple but most powerful things I think you can do as a small business owner, and that is replacing the contact form on your website with a lead capture from your CRM. So if you don't know what a CRM is or you don't know the term, it's a customer client relationship manager. And generally what it does is it allows you to get the information from people who are trying to contact you through contact forms, and then to take that information and save it in your system and do things like send them contracts, send them invoices, send proposals, create projects, track your work, things like that. So it's sort of a one-stop shop for you to have all of your client information in one place. So what happens normally if you have a contact form on your website is, someone fills it out, you get an email, maybe you go back and forth with them, and then if they decide to sign up with you, then you enter them into your CRM. So what this does is it just completely cuts out a step for you. When they fill out your form, they're already in your CRM. Then you can keep track of them in there. If they end up not being a client, you can archive them, you can market them as a cold lead. But then if they do continue, they're already right in your system, and that saves you a bunch of time. So the example I'm going to do today is using Dubsado. I'm going to walk you through how to create a form in Dubsado and then embed it. But if you're using a different CRM and pretty much any system you're using, somewhere on the form when you create it, there should be something like a share button, and it will give you an embed code. So once we get to the point of using the embed code from Dubsado, at that point, everything else will be the same, regardless of what CRM that you're using. And if you can't figure that out for your specific CRM, you can contact their support or reach out to me, and I'd be happy to help you figure out how to get that embed code that we're looking for. So we're going to start in Dubsado here, and I'm just going to create a really simple lead capture form. They do have a template library, which is useful if you're creating a standalone form or something like a contract or a proposal. Since the lead capture is going inside your website to start, we don't really care about you know, designing it or formatting it or things like that, because the content and the formatting already exists on your website. So we just want something really straightforward. So we're going to create a new lead capture. And all that means is a lead capture is just a way for clients to be able to give you their information. So you'll see right away they're providing the fields up front that you're most likely going to want in a lead capture form. I'm not going to do anything too complicated with this. I really want to keep this part simple. Generally, you want to keep your lead capture form as simple as possible. The fewer fields that are required, obviously we do need things like their contact information, but if you require too much information up front, you run the risk of people just not bothering to fill it out at all. So you're better off trying to keep it simple up front and then ask the questions that you need to know in your follow-up. So if we click on each of these fields, we'll see we have the option to make some changes here, do some customization. First name is relatively straightforward. We can change the placeholder text if you'd like to say something else. And then the field mapping is just how it's going to map into your project in Dubsado. So if I'm creating a client, that's what this form will do, create my client in Dubsado, and this will map to their first name, so I save it in the client information. Same thing for last name, same thing for email. Just for simplicity here, I'm going to remove phone and remove event date. So we're going to leave it with these fields. The other thing, just to point this out, that you can do in Dubsado, if you want to organize these differently, if you add a container, this allows you to add columns. So for example, if I wanted to ask a couple different things here and I don't want this form to be too big, then I could create this little container, and then I can just drag and drop my fields into these columns that it created. So if I wanted to do that in this case, maybe that takes up a little less room. And now I've got these two fields in columns here just so my form is a little bit shorter. Could do the same thing if I'd wanted to keep in the phone number, and I could just keep that in the second column. And just like the fields, if I click on the container, I get some options. So Dubsado has some very extensive walkthrough videos to explain these forms to you, so I'm not going to go too in-depth here. I just want to show you the basics of how we can set this form up. So our email address is also required, and how can we help is just the field that gives them the option to put some information in and tell you what they're looking for. I personally tend to make this required when I've had it not required in the past. Sometimes people don't fill it out, and I feel like it just creates a little bit more time back and forth for me to figure out what they're actually looking for. So I could change this to anything I want to be. So that pretty much completes my fields. You can see here there's obviously a lot more field options if there are other things that you need to look for. You can select dates. If you maybe work with the wedding industry and the date is really important to the inquiry, you could add that in there. Things like multiple choice and checkbox options. But like I said, for the sake of a lead capture form, we probably aren't going to use these because we don't want to make it too complicated. And then we have a couple different settings here. I'm going to leave the default workflow blank. I will do videos in the future to talk about how we can make this even more powerful by applying a workflow and creating automation that does even more work for you. Your thank you message is what will show up once they click submit on the form, so you can customize this to whatever you'd like it to say. Or you can actually redirect it instead. So if they click submit, it redirects to a page on your website, for example, an information page, a follow-up page, anything like that. Project status we do want to set. So what's going to happen here is when they submit the form, it's going to create a project in Dubsado with this client associated with the project. So you have the option to set the status on the project, which helps you track, where in your process this is. So in this case, we want to create them as a lead. And for me, the first status is waiting on initial reply. That lets me know that I need to reply to them and I haven't yet. And then you also have the ability to create your project title. So by default, I think it's just something like client name and then the name of your contact form. So it would be like client name lead capture form right now. So I can insert fields here. So I could do client first name, client last name, and then whatever this lead capture form is for. So for, if you're creating a website, you can say website request. You can, whatever makes sense for your project. So for this example, we'll just do something simple. And then other options, like you can password protect your form or set it to expire depending on how you plan to use it. And we also do have some styling options, which again, I'm not going to get into. This is, lets you change your font and things like that if you want to set it to match your branding, which is a good idea. Just, I don't think worth going over at this point since we're doing a simple form. So the important thing we're going to do now is we're going to save it. Make sure we saved all of our progress. And then this is the important button, and this is where with any other CRM, you can kind of catch up to us and start following along. So you have two different options for sharing. You can create a direct link, which is just a link that you can copy and send out, and that will just bring them to a page with this form, and we can preview it if you want to see what it looks like. So this is basically what they would see on the page. Or we have this embed option, and this is giving you some code to put in your website. So we're going to click to copy, and then we're going to go into our website. And this is the WordPress website. I'm going to walk you through how to do this with WordPress in particular. And if you have other websites and you can't figure out where to put your code, again, you can reach out to your website provider, and they probably have a walkthrough already. And if they don't, reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you figure it out. So we have a contact page created already. If we didn't, we would just click add new and create a new page. So we're going to edit. And then we've got this empty page. So when you're embedding code like this, the block that you want is called the custom HTML block. So we're going to click add block. And mine is up here since I used it recently, but if it wasn't, I can search for HTML. We're looking for custom HTML. And then you just get this block with some text, and we're going to paste in that text that we just copied. And then we can preview it right here to see what it will look like. So if I click preview, it's going to pop up my form. And I'm going to save my page and just show you what it would look like on the live page. So there you go. So we have this little form now, and you can fill it out. And when we click submit, you'll see that little message that we had put on the form, and that's what they will see. And then if we were to go back to Dubsado, and I'll go to waiting on initial reply, and you can see it created this new project. So it created them with their first name, last name, new project, like I told it to. It created the client with their first and last name, and the status is waiting on initial reply. So now you've got all this information already in here. You can send them emails through your CRM so you can track them. You can easily create their project and go ahead and add on to it and have all of that already in here ready to go. So hopefully that helps you, and hopefully this is something that can save you time. And if you are stuck at any point, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you walk through and figure out how we can get this set up for you.